Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Class with Young Screenwriters. We are an online. Wow! I accidentally had the window open. I accidentally had the window open for our channel, so I heard everything start again, and I got very confused. And I heard my own voice, and I was like, "What is happening?" But yeah, we are an online resource and community for up and coming screenwriters, and today Hannah is joining us, and we are breaking the favorite.
It's gonna be fun. We love this movie.
Yeah,
we love this movie.
Hannah really loves this movie.
I do. I really love this movie.
Hannah, if your web series was period piece, I mean, this would be your web series because it's women beating the shit out of women, and men are kind of subservient roles, just kind of men dashing around in knickers.
And makeup and wigs and
makeup and wigs.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's really your kind of it touches all of your bases, doesn't it?
As I was watching the movie, I was like, we need to bring back men being the ones who have to like get dolled up, and I want to be able to look like crap always. Yeah.
I could not agree more. Let's make it happen.
The guys in this film are really funny. I mean, they're not there much, but when they are, they're absurd.
During the dancing sequences, I was thinking about like, the conversations the director must have had with the choreographer. And I'm sure the choreographer first must have come with like legitimate, like historical based dances. And he must have just been like, make it dumber. And like every time just been like, nope, make it dumber,
Dumb it down.
Dumb it down. Brilliant.
That's great.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, I saw this interview with, just thinking of the director, I saw this interview with, what's her name? Rachel Weisz, is that how you say her name? And Emma Stone. And they were talking about like what kind of notes they got from the director. And one of the notes was apparently Rachel was getting too intense. And the director was like, that was a little X-Men. And to help her reel it back in. And I just kind of love that.
I love that. His other movies are intense. None of them are as humorous as this one is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I'm looking up. What are the other movies? By Yorgos.
Yeah. The Lobster, I believe.
Okay.
The Lobster.
Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Really intense. Yeah, I mean those are
intense.
I love those films, but this is quite a departure because it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
And
which is different. I know after I watched this, I was like, oh, I need to watch everything he's ever made. So then I went and watched Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I was like, ooh, okay, this is quite as funny. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I freaking love this show. The Great. Have you all seen that? On Hulu?
I started it. It's similar.
Yeah.
It's so
fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. And Dilla's right. John, I hope you're using Flick to look up those movies.
Exactly.
I saw Hannah yesterday. It's a little embarrassing. I saw Hannah yesterday, and I said, Hannah, this is so embarrassing. Oh, man, I got called out. What are we, about 5 minutes in, and I get called out already?
Love that kid.
I saw Hannah yesterday, and I said, Hannah, you've got to help me get on, but I'm going to. Hannah, we're going to.
We have to do it.
I know it's like really easy. And actually, I saw my daughters the other night. They could have helped me. I need help. By the way, have you noticed that? I need help from women. So I think there's a theme here.
I would say there is.
Yeah.
John trying to use Flick was like me trying to use TikTok the other week. And I was like, I'm out. I give up.
I'm gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people on the Young Screenwriters team say we need a TikTok. And I'm like, I can't be involved, but I believe you that it's a good place for things. But I will never dance on there. We'll get John to do some dances maybe, but
yeah, I'll do some dances. I don't know what TikTok is, so I don't know what the hell is going on. I mean, I just only recently know what Instagram is, which is pretty cool. It's one of those, you go down a rabbit hole, you lose an hour of your day, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I lose only an hour, it's a good day, John. Okay. I lose way more than an hour.
All right.
Oh, so Hannah, you want to try to break down this movie?
You gonna break it down for us?
Okay, I'm gonna assist you guys in breaking it down because I'm with everyone else, I'm rusty. But my favorite part about the movie, which is part of why I chose it, was you think the protagonist is going to be the queen, but it's not. So all of you who thought it was the queen, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's not, and it's the Emma Stone character. So why don't you guys break it down, and I'll just be here for support.
Wait, Hannah, you've got I saw your notes. Come on.
I have some notes. Okay, I have some notes, but I don't have.
So Hannah,
we'll
do it this way. Can we do it this way? Can we do it? Hannah, who's the protagonist?
Abigail, the Emma Stone.
Emma Stone.
Character.
Abigail is the protagonist, and does she have what? An objective?
I think her objective is to become a lady and leave her class.
Taken away from her, which is just great.
Yeah.
Also, great opening moment when she's tossed out face first into the mud. This is not. She's got to improve her status, right?
Mm-hmm. Improve her status, but her flaw is.
What is her?
This is where I was getting tripped up.
I think that
Alexie,
she is.
Yeah.
I think that she's an anti-hero, which means she has a positive flaw. So I think, because basically the correction that she's making is becoming worse. So her flaw, in my mind, is that she isn't fully willing to commit because she still loves other people, and then her inner need is to love nobody but herself.
Which she
and that's the journey that she goes on. Is mine.
Right.
Beautifully. Yeah. So she is.
So her flaw is that she's a good person.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is why I love the movie.
Yeah.
So good.
Who's the antagonist? Who's the antagonist?
The antagonist is the Rachel Weisz, the Lady Marlborough.
Yeah, Sarah. Also, I mean, I love it's a wonderful movie thematically on power trips and power plays, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the queen, as you said, it opens the queen as a queen, and you figure that's who we're going to follow, and oh no, we're not. And then it turns out that Sarah has tremendous power and is really. I'm sorry to usurp I'm going to shut up in just a second. But one of the beautiful things about the way that the antagonist is designed, you guys have probably heard me say this. I know you've heard me say this before, but the reason that Sarah works so well as an antagonist is because she's brilliant. And if she were less brilliant, she wouldn't create as much conflict for Abigail. But the fact that she is really running the show and owns the queen speaks to how smart she is, how clever she is, how conniving she is, and that's going to make Abigail's journey and job much more difficult, right?
Yeah, I thought that maybe Sarah was going to pull off the last minute win through the very end. I did too. Agree with that.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised that she didn't.
She's formidable. Rachel Weisz's character is very formidable. Yeah. So Alexie, I know you've done some beats too. So why don't all three of us kind of kick this around, kick the can down the road? What have you got?
Just in terms, so I said her objective, I made it a little different. I said that it's to become the queen's favorite over Sarah, in particular. And the reason why I did that is because I think the midpoint is when she eloped, when she gets the queen to marry her to Masham, and she becomes a lady there, but she's still not the favorite. she's not the favorite until the very end when she burns Sarah's letter and is fully committed to like screwing. Like that's like when she resolves her flaw, because she finally is like, I don't love Anne enough to like to spare her this heartache. I only love me. I will burn this letter to finally screw Sarah over and become the queen's favorite.
I like that. So you think the objective is the title?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, I kind of like that.
I do.
Cool.
Yeah.
But what do you think the midpoint was?
Good question. I don't know. I watched it through pretty briefly, but I don't know.
I thought the midpoint was when she sleeps with the queen.
Oh, that is another turning point. Yeah. It's
but
tough.
It should be when her world collapses. When does the world collapse?
I put it as that's like the moment around where she elopes with Masham, and the queen gives her an allowance, and her station is restored. She's a lady, and then that kind of like that's like combined with Sarah coming back. So it's like this whole moment of chaos where it's a new world.
So Sarah comes back, and that's a midpoint because she's not dead. She's
kind of. I thought the midpoint was just that she gets to become a lady, and that changes the rules. Because I was kind of looking at the midpoint as like a rule change, but I can see why all these things are different kinds of turning points, and I think that's what makes it so good. Is that there's so many turning points throughout the movie that it's like that you could really put it in a lot of different places. I'm curious what other people think the midpoint was. And I agree with this so much. Yes.
Oh yeah, Olivia Colman, she can do I love her. I mean, she's just amazing.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought the midpoint was because right after she sleeps with the queen and Rachel Weisz comes in and finds her and she fires her. And so I thought it was when she gets fired.
Yeah. A fun fact I saw in another interview that the books that Rachel Weisz was throwing at her were made of foam. So she was really hurling these like foam books at her in that scene.
Right.
Yeah. And that
makes sense.
Amused me.
Yeah.
I just find that stuff so interesting. All my IMDb trivia.
It's fun facts. By the way, one of my favorite scenes that I've only seen the film once before, but I was so looking forward to it, and it worked once again. I think there are 3 scenes when they go out and shoot. They go out and
when she shoots at her
to practice shooting, and I'm in the last one. The way the shots are framed, and the way that the gun, Abigail's gun, is pointed at Sarah, and then she shoots the bird too early, and the blood sprays onto. I mean, it's just the shot choices and the framing of the shots in that scene are just remarkable. It's a scene we could spend a class just breaking the minutia of that scene and how these 2 women have gone to war, and the fact that you introduced literally guns into the scene, how it just heightens everybody. Will want to shoot the other person? It's great.
Mm-hmm. And I liked the line that Sarah had, which was like, "Take your shot," which had the double meaning. That was so good.
It's a great scene.
It's so good. John, do you have notes too? Look at everyone with these notes.
Yeah, it's kind of
so
impressive.
Prepared.
I can barely read mine, but I do have notes. The obstacles are great. It's hard to become a favorite because, and again, the beauty of that is when we find out that the queen and Sarah are lovers too. Then you can't, how do you break through? How do you become a favorite if, we find out what the answer to that is.
Yeah, you become the new lover.
Yeah.
She just took it all in stride. She was just like, I will, okay. Like, that's the game, and I will play. And
Olivia Colman, I mean, all three of them are brilliant. I can watch Olivia Colman do anything, but I also think Emma Stone is, I love Emma Stone.
She was incredible in this, and I'm so glad that she got to try, like, that she got to do a role like this. Like, instead of, like I really liked her in like, Easy A and Superbad,
She's so
but
good
like,
yeah.
But it's like, I'm glad that she got to do this one that has, I don't know, it's just fun to see her in this.
Yeah. Hannah, what else do you have in your note package there?
Let's see. My notes are very brief, but I had that her mentor was, I wonder if I said it was the, I'm curious what you said. Yeah, I said the same thing as you, Alexie. I said it was Harley.
The
guy.
And that's what I think too, because I think that I'm going to share my screen. I posted it in the chat, but just so people can see it if they want to. Because I think the question is like what is like worth loving, or like what is true love? Like, I think the thematic question has to do with love. And Harley's thing is that he loves nothing more than his country, like nothing. And so he kind of teaches her how to prioritize something above all else. And that's why I think that he was the mentor, because he was very like singular, and he was willing to like screw over his friend, like marry off his friends, and like spy and do unethical things for the sake of what he called his country, but actually seemed like his money, which, you know, tends to be how that goes.
Yeah, I thought the thematic question had to do with like, what does it take? Like, what do you have to sacrifice in order to get what you want? You know, like, because at the end of the day, she had to sacrifice her morals, you know, her morality.
Yeah. Well, there's a line on that note, and I agree, and there's a line, I think, right in the very first minute of the film where somebody, and I wrote down the line, but I didn't write who to attribute it to, but love has limits.
Oh, yep. Here we go. Samantha agrees.
Love has limits. That's it. Yes. Samantha, gold star, brilliant. Samantha's brilliant because she agrees with me. But
Samantha's brilliant.
Yeah, love has limits is the theme, which is again kind of dark and kind of wonderful, I think.
Yeah, I like that. I revised my thematic question too.
Does and love Hannah, that's limits? It's keeping with what you were saying, right?
Yeah. Sure, I'll take I'll say I was right. I don't know that I was, but I'll take it.
Win it out.
So what was, just to go through it, the inciting incident and call to action moments?
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I've got a guess on this one. I've got a guess answer, but you guys want to take it first?
Seems like
I said it was the gout, like getting promoted. I called it. I don't know if that's the right word, but moving above servant to start working for Rachel White's, what's her name? Sarah.
Yeah, I agree. I think her inciting incident is like when she's taken in to meet the queen and sees her gout. And then her response is that she goes and she picks herbs and sneaks into the queen's chamber and all that. And her call, that's a great scene. And then the call to action is when she, like, just to put it in terms of her being active, it's when I guess she accepts the promotion to be lady of the bedchamber. And that now she's in her new world, which is directly with the queen and Sarah all the time. And kind of like in that new world.
Just to be provocative, I'm curious. I the chat.
Oh no!
Well, we'll see what the chat. Yeah, just to be provocative, I'm going to go a slightly different.
Scaring me.
I would throw out there that the inciting incident has happened before the movie started.
The father.
That's when she lost her ladyship.
Mm-hmm.
So when she lost that, her world was forever changed, and now that sent her on this journey. It's just,
I guess it just depends what the objective is, because if the objective is to be the queen's favorite, then that wouldn't be the inciting incident.
You're right.
But if the objective is to not, to get back to her initial class, then I agree.
Yeah,
that's a good.
And would you say that then in that case, would you say that her leaving the normal world is when she leaves what could be called and is called downstairs and is moved upstairs? So that's what you're saying. So her normal world is a downstairs world, and she gets promoted out of that. Her new world that she has to figure out. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's.
Yeah. I was also playing around if the inciting incident being her arriving at the castle.
Yeah, I think so. Michelle said, "Isn't the objective to get to the highest class possible?" I think that kind of is under the umbrella, but I think that the fact that she becomes a lady before the end of the movie, like pretty far before the end of the movie when there's still a lot of movie left, and then she's not really pursuing a higher class after that point. She's still trying to take down Sarah. Like, she's still saying, like, oh, she was embezzling money, and like she's still like kind of like undoing Sarah's whole legacy by like saying we shouldn't tax the landowners and all these things. So I think the objective is more about replacing Sarah as the queen's favorite, but that it includes all of these steps. And
I also think it's like sort of the same. It's just becoming the queen's favorite is like, John's gonna love this, the tangible version of that. So like if your objective is to get rich, that's not an objective. But if your objective is to, steal the necklace that you can then sell and which will get you rich. So like the favorite is just the tangible way to become the highest class possible.
Yes. And so Hannah, I mean, yes, you're right. I love that. And because the reason, sorry, I'm gonna go off on a tangent here a little bit, which God knows I always do. The reason for that is by making it tangible, then you have defined for the audience the ultimate test and the obtaining or not of the objective. So if you can make it tangible, then the audience knows what you're striving for. If that objective is at all vague, it confuses the audience. I had a friend in LA. He kept a note in his wallet, and it just said 5 million.
So,
and he wanted to make $5 million. So that was his tangible. If he had said, "Get rich," that's vague, because what is rich? But if you were going to do his movie, then what you would do is you would get him up to $4,500,000. You would see him approaching that, and then when the account says 5 million, he has obtained objective. So that's it's really just to help the audience know what we're striving for, what the protagonist is striving for.
So, John, we're getting a lot of questions that I know you have a strong opinion
I gotta go
on.
to the chat. Well, let me look at the chat.
It's about can the objective change?
Wait, now I'm in the chat room. God, there are a lot. Jesus. What's going on here? There are films. The answer is no. But there are films that break this rule. And without question, in all the years I've been teaching, the hardest thing for students to nail down and get right is the objective. That is, without question, the hardest thing for them to get. And if it's floating, if that objective is not confirmed, qualified, then spine, and certainly Act 2, which we all know is a monster, then Act 2 starts to float and get away from you as the writer. So, I mean, we could talk about Terrence Malick, and we could talk about Kubrick, and we could talk about a number of these great, masters. And they play with it. They certainly, Full Metal Jacket, certainly Malick's film last year, I forget the name of it, but yes, people play with it. I'm telling you, as a screenwriter early in your career, you do not want to play with this. Spielberg doesn't play with it. People who are seasoned and great storytellers, filmmakers, don't play with and don't try to change the objective, because it will really mess with your second act.
Yeah, I think so. Samantha just brought up something that I actually want to pull my breakdowns back up again real quick. So the thing that you're talking about, like the want and the need, is what we call objective and motivation. And that's where I'm saying I think that she wants to become the favorite over Sarah. So she wants to replace Sarah as the favorite. And the motivation is like basically so she can do whatever she wants and live a privileged life, which is like the result of status. Like she wants to like have means and freedom and status and all those things. And so that's sort of like the want and the objective. And I think that this film is written so that her objective doesn't change, because throughout the movie, there's moments where we see Abigail and Sarah go head to head for the queen's affection.
Yes.
And she loses every single time until the very end. So like there's that moment where the queen has to choose who she's going to hang out with that night. And Abigail's like, oh, I'll come like make your bed and help you. And then Sarah's like, we could have some sherry. And the queen, in the script at the moment's more dramatic. It says like, it literally says like a moment of choice. And like that this is the moment that we're going to see which one is the queen's favorite right now. And the queen chooses Sarah. And she chooses Sarah every single time. And then like the ultimate test I have is when basically Abigail tries to force her to choose herself over Sarah by saying Sarah's embezzling funds, and she loses. She hasn't gone far enough. The queen chooses Sarah again. The queen says that Sarah would never embezzle funds and doesn't believe her.
Right.
And then it's only once she's fully committed to just completely screwing over everybody but her, like everybody. Like she's going to make the queen believe that like her lifelong love has abandoned her in order to screw over this other woman. That's when she finally becomes the true favorite and replaces Sarah. So I think that was always the goal. And I think that like being the queen's favorite comes with a certain status, but like being a lady wasn't enough for her. No. Like she wanted more. Otherwise the movie would have ended when she became a lady.
Yeah, and by the way, on that note, I agree with what Alexie's saying. On that note, again, trying to keep it away from vague, you could say her objective is power, because as the favorite, she gets power. But what I try to stress with young writers is qualify it. So the favorite qualifies it. Does she want power? Yes, she wants power. But how do we know when she has acquired it? How do we know when you reach 5 million? It's not enough to say I want to be rich. You need to put a label on it, and the favorite is the label.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it's like I think the question kind of is like, what exactly is the motivation? But the tangible thing is, it's like, is her motivation power? Like, is it status or security? But yeah, I mean, I just think that's how it was written. But I see the point of like, it seemed at first it seemed that her being a lady was the most important thing, but we saw it wasn't enough.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that it's important to be able to articulate and be analytical about this stuff is that, you know, hopefully, you know, at some point you're going to be in a room with studio executive or producer or a director, and they're going to want to know your point of view. They're going to want to know why you made this choice, because that is going to helps them frame the film. And great screenwriters, great storytellers can tell you exactly why they've moved every piece on the board, why the moves came when they did, and believe me, when you're in that meeting, in that room, that goes a long way towards them backing away from you and saying, okay, you understand story. You have reason behind your choices. And that's why this exercise is so important. So that when you're approaching your film, why am I doing this? Why is this choice? It's not arbitrary. It's a well thought out choice.
And that's why a lot of the time when you're writing, it's not like, oh, what should happen next? It's not like, oh, the possibilities are endless. It's like, what needs to happen next in order to get them to this place for their end goal, you know? It's like, it really is like filling in a puzzle. It's not like, oh, what would be like a cool thing? Like it's much more thought out. It has much more purpose than that.
And
it's like, it's inevitable. Yeah. It's like, once it's put together, right. There was no other possibilities, because that was the way that it had to go, you know? And so it makes it look easy in retrospect. You're like, well, of course that would be the next step. But like figuring out what it is a whole process, you know? And I love when movies seem like simple, because the choices were so smart, you know? Like, that's what you want.
That's what makes, that's why, you know, the good news, bad news here is that's why everybody thinks they can write a screenplay, because when you see a great movie, it looks effortless.
Looks so easy.
And so that's why, you know, my story about my dentist, that's why my dentist says, hey, I want to hear my movie, you know, as he pries my mouth open. But as we know, it's not easy, and getting there. I had this young lady today. I was a student of mine. She's really nice, and she's very young, and she's sweet, and so she's laboring over her script, and finally she said, "Oh, Mr. Warren, I just want it to be seamless." And I thought, you know, how cute. I know. Yeah. Of course you do. That's what we all want. It's just it's just not easy. That's why craft is so demanding and wonderful.
Yeah. So I have a question for both of you that I think is a good one, and that I'm not really sure. What was the point of Abigail crushing the rabbit under her foot in the same room at the Queen at the end? Like, what was the deal with that little last raw? And then all those freaking crossfades. I was like, what is this? It like became like a trippy, like, there's so many odd choices there. But I was wondering, what do you all think this was about? The rabbit.
I don't know. Hannah, do you have a take? I don't know.
So I think something like this, personally, I think it has to do with just showing the growth from like the first time when she went in and was like cradling the rabbits. Like that was sort of that first time when she met with the Queen, when she went in and was like, oh, they're so cute. And it's just showing like, you know, sort of where she is with the Queen now and the power she feels like she has. But I think moments like these are really meant for like personal interpretation. Like, you know, in terms of the actual screenplay, this is much more of like the director having a moment creatively rather than like, I'd be curious, was this even in the script? Alexie, did you read the script?
I actually didn't get to the end. So I'm going to look at that because that's a great question.
But everybody, Abdullah and Andrea, everybody, yeah, it's Power. It's a show of revealing her newfound ability to destroy. I love that, Spencer. Yeah,
I think it's the power, but then also showing she's lost all morality. Like she no longer cares for other living things.
Yeah. So do you think it was genuine?
Samantha says it was in the script. It wasn't.
All right, I stand corrected.
Well, but we don't know how many rewrites this thing went through. Maybe with the director or the producers putting their fingers on it. So maybe. I mean, because this was the script. The script that we sent out to people was the one that they used for the for your consideration Oscar script. And I think that sometimes aren't those kind of like updated to reflect where it ended up, or no?
Yeah, I mean they probably, this may have been the shooting script. It may have been the shooting draft. I don't know.
Oops.
I don't know. It probably was the shooting draft.
That's what it says.
Yeah, it probably was the shooting draft. Huh? What's that?
Yeah, it says that. Let's see. So this is the last little scene. Drop it.
Drops rabbit under her foot. It struggles for a moment. So she's not killing the rabbit. She's just controlling it. I think it's the power.
Yeah, they made it more like animal cruelty in the film, and this is kind of like she traps it, which is still not nice, but
she's not.
It felt much more like awful when the rabbit was clearly in distress. Like reading the script. I read the script, most of the script before I watched the movie. And before I really knew what the movie was about. And I have to say, like, if they did not get such good actors, there's no way that this would have worked. Because, like, I couldn't, like, a lot of it, I couldn't tell. Like, I wasn't necessarily seeing the humor in it. Like, I was kind of just like, what's going on here? And so it was a little confusing to read. And then when I was watching it, I was like, oh, okay, that's how Olivia Colman's gonna destroy that line. Like the look at me, look away, close your eyes. Like in the script, I was like, what is happening? But
it's so well directed.
Yeah.
All the subtlety it's magnificent, I think.
That's part of the struggle I have with screenwriting, is literally exactly what you just said, Alexie, is like conveying that tone. Like, people read that like, look at me, don't look at me line, and they're like, what? And it makes no sense. And then you see it, and it it's one of the best parts of the movie and her character. And that's one of the toughest parts about solely being a screenwriter, is it's really on you to convey that. And
that's why you direct and star in yours, so you can be like
literally, because I don't know, my writing's not good enough to convey it, so I'm like, I guess I just have to make it.
I wanted to bring up this thing where Maggie says that it was a combination of the actors and directing. Yeah, the fisheye camera. Can we talk about that? What was the deal with that?
Wait, what was her question?
It wasn't. She was just a statement that she brought up. The fisheye camera.
I think
it was a combination of
actors and directing. Yeah. So on that point, on the first part of this is the actors and the director. Again, you got Olivia Colman, you got Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, you got amazing actors. So part of the beauty of this is putting it in their hands and watching them make magic. There's one of my favorite scenes, which I use sometimes in class. Maybe I've done it. I don't know if I've done it here or not, but it's a scene in Doubt with Viola Davis and Meryl Streep, and it's a walk and talk. It's about a 4-page walk and talk, and John Patrick Shanley, who wrote and directed Doubt, the day that they shot that, he thought, just give the pages to him and get out of the way. I got Streep and Viola Davis. I'm not going to muck with it. What am I going to tell, hey, Meryl, I got some notes for you. So, one of the, directors talk about this all the time, that when they hire an actor, part of what they're doing is saying, bring what you bring, bring your magic to it. The same is true with a director who, Mike Nichols was known for a very subtle but insightful, because Mike Nichols really had an instinct for knowing people. So he knew character, and so he was known for giving very subtle directing notes, and the actors had said, and when they heard it, they went, oh God, oh, of course, now I've got it. So, that's what brings the script to another level. What's this question? Oh yeah, and then the fisheye is a choice. It's like a Dutch angle. It's a camera choice. When you're in pre-production and you're trying to figure out what is the tone and template of this movie, what are the color choices, all of that, music, everything. One of them is cinematography, and saying to the cinematographer, a fisheye lens, that suddenly lends itself to the tone of the piece. It throws everything off a little bit. What are we looking at? And that's a choice that was really, you can imagine the director and cinematographer talked about that a lot. Yeah.
Like
so what is it?
I feel like done poorly, it could feel like a gimmick, but I think it really worked here.
That's always the danger is, is that you don't want it to, and also you don't want it to take you, generally speaking, you don't want that shot to take you out of the film. Spike Lee has a thing that he does frequently, where if he's got two people in a walk and talk, he puts them in a master 2 shot, and then he puts them on a dolly track, and they roll, they don't walk. And the camera backs with them as they're rolling, so they're not walking. And it always takes me out of the movie, because I rather than listen to what they're saying, I go, are they on a dolly? Are they on flatbed? What are they on? Because they're not walking. It's a choice he loves. I don't get it, but yeah.
So H has a really good take that I think is smart. Is fisheye exaggerates and distorts, which does reflect the absurdity of the competition we're watching. And that was my thought on it when I was watching it. Was that it? Yeah. And then I think Michelle had another one too, another take, which is like it reminded her of a security camera, and it made the audience like voyeurs into the private life of court.
Oh, I think that's an interesting. That's a great idea.
It really takes you out of it, which is got to be the intention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, remember way back when we watched The Third Man, and they were doing a lot of Dutch angles, which is it's that angle, that's a Dutch angle. So, but it's
really dramatic.
The world is. Yeah, I should always be in Dutch. I should be shot in Dutch angle. But it shows that the life is out of whack. It's off balance.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
those are
so
great
I have
choices.
to ask,
those are
John,
fun choices. Yeah.
I have to ask, are those choices that a screenwriter should write into their script?
No, they're not.
Great question.
No. Don't do it. Don't do it, because the director gets really pissed off if you're telling him or her how to direct.
Mm-hmm.
They
like choosing the shots.
Oh, yeah.
Choosing the shots, choosing the angles, choosing the lens, that's the directing. The directing is working with the actors, but it's really the shots and the angles and the lens and the lighting and really all of that is a huge part of directing. And so if you find yourself like wanting to be writing in that stuff, then like you might be interested in the directing as well. But also, like, I feel like you have to think of your screenplay almost like a book, in the sense that like you're taking your reader on a journey, you know, and if you want to, instead of using it writing on a Dutch angle, like you have to use your words to convey that like things are out of whack.
Yes,
because your reader might not know what those things are.
So Hannah, I have a question for you in your process. Since you know that you're going to be starring in and directing, does that affect how you write your scripts? Like, would you include things like that since you're gonna be, since you know you're directing them, or are you kind of like a purist when it comes to the scripts?
It's a great question. I wouldn't put in like the lens I would use. I wouldn't put in like the angle on the camera. Like there's certain things I would maybe do, like close up, you know, like how close I want it to be, or how wide I want the shot to be. I might put something like that in, because I think sometimes that might affect the like tone of, you know, if we open up a scene directly on someone's face, or if you're seeing the whole room. But no, I tend to not put a lot of the directing stuff in there. And I think that has to do with the fact that I don't always think about it. Like certain things I do, like whether we're starting here or further away, but I really do focus on just like the story and the objective and, you know, like what am I trying to convey in the scene, rather than like, once you start thinking about what it's gonna look like, then you're not really focused on like the right parts of it.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I know that, like, I know in general, writer-directors get away with more stuff in their scripts, but I think that what you were saying about, like, stay focused on the story has a lot of merit, regardless of if you're gonna direct it and act in it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I guess.
Well, it's interesting because I was talking to John yesterday about, you were asking me if learning all of this screenplay structure helped, and if I would have still gotten to like what I do now, or like writing for myself. And I'm in the process of writing the pilot version of the web series, and I really think of it as like a totally separate character. Like I'm literally on my paper, like what is her flaw? What does she want? Like what is the storylines? Like I don't think of her as me when I'm writing. And so yeah, so it's really, you know, it always comes back to the same basics.
That makes sense. And that distance is probably helpful and like lets you get to a more interesting story, even if you end up bringing you into it kind of subconsciously or something.
Yeah, like I use my own experiences, but I think of her as a totally separate character, which I think that you have to, in order to view someone, you know, to know what they're doing wrong, to be really, really self-aware. Like you have to see them from a distance as not yourself. So, yeah. But what you were talking about the actors before, I once heard someone say like, when it comes to like directing actors, like the biggest part of directing is casting. Like what you're saying is like, if you're casting Meryl Streep for that role, then like you're trusting her to do what she's going to do. And if that's not like the type of, you know, like character you want, then that's not the right casting. So casting is just like a huge part of directing because it's half the job basically.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And you're trusting them to bring what they do.
Like you can do small tweaks to the character and the, you know, like they're meant to be molded, but at the end of the day, like you need to like what that actresses or actors bringing to the character.
Yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, you have to kind of know. I think one of the clearest ways to know this is when people release, like, sometimes you see articles of like who else was considered for this big role.
Yeah.
And like you can just tell that it would be such a different movie if like it was Ben Affleck in Inception instead of Leonardo DiCaprio or whatever. You know, you can just like feel that would be a very different movie. And so I think that kind of is getting at how important.
Yeah, like they're both incredible actors, but they're so different. and bring different things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, because at first I was, here we go. A question for you.
Oh.
As a writer-director, do you separate yourself as a director and writer while on set, or do you bring both the writer and director brain?
And do they ever fight with each other?
I feel like they're fighting with each other all the time, but they're both there, right? Because it's like, you might have to think of a new joke idea, or, think of a better way to say it when it's not sounding right. Like, so sometimes they're both needed, but they're not necessarily needed for the same problems. Like, like let's say a problem is like, we only have half the time you thought you were going to have time for 4 shots and you only have time for 2. Like, which 2 shots do you want? Like, you don't need the writer brain in those moments. But you might need the writer brain in the sense of like, we can't get this location. We have to move it to this other room. Like, you have to make this scene make sense in the kitchen instead of the bedroom. And so then you need the writer for that brain, which is like not necessarily the director brain. So you sort of always need both. Yeah. Like, a lot of times writers will be on set, not always, but a lot of times they'll be on set for like moments like that.
Do you remember an example of a time that you had to change something, like change the script to fit what was happening directing wise, or like something like that, like where the set changed?
I mean, it's literally all.
Didn't like COVID protocols shift how you shot?
Oh, well, in general, like, I had the whole series written and then COVID happened and then I had to rewrite the entire series to be able to work in one location. So that way we sort of created like a bubble. I had to cut out a lot of different storylines and try to find different ways of showing different character traits within this like one location. But in terms of like being on set, like in the moment, it's literally happening like all the time. Like, there was a scene I thought we could get on a porch in the house, and then we weren't allowed on the porch and we had to move it to this other area. It's like, it's sort of happening it's like always happening. In my first series, I had to cut an entire episode because we lost locations. And then I had to take certain moments out of that episode that were like part of the bigger storyline and like quickly put them into the other episodes. So it's like always happening.
And this happens on like expensive shoots, right? Like
it's always happening. Yeah. Like no matter how low budget or big budget it is.
No matter what. And what Hannah's talking about is really important. And she does a great job with this and did a great job with her series. Those problems can lead you to, and Hannah, is a question. Do those problems sometimes lead you to choices that are better choices than you had imagined?
Yeah, I think
it's funny.
And it sounds corny to say it, but limitations really do help.
Yeah.
Because, if I have to think of a situation for a guy and a girl to meet, and fall in love in one situation, it's like, there's a million things. But then if someone's like, you have to shoot this in a subway, like, this is the only place we have to shoot it. It's like, okay, now there's like way fewer scenarios for me to think of in this one location. So they really do help, even though like at first they feel like they're a disaster. So sometimes I had one episode where there was something that happened in a coffee shop, but we only had the coffee shop for 2 hours instead of 4 hours. So it's like, you have to take part of the scene and move it to a different location. And so, so there's always things coming up, and in the moment they feel like disasters, but it always helps.
I always think about how Breaking Bad, the original pilot script, was written to take place in California, and then I think because of like shooting restrictions, they moved it to where?
New Mexico. Yeah. They had it was tax reasons. I think they had to move it there. And can you imagine that show not being in New Mexico?
No, you can't.
Made it so
right?
much better.
And that's the beauty of that is that they, because of restrictions, it made it better. But that's, by the way, I mean, that's being a director. It's because it's, as you said, big budget, low budget, doesn't matter. Something will go wrong. And that is every day. So, it's just, you get to the set in the morning and it's sunny and it's beautiful. And, your line producer goes, well, it hadn't started raining yet. Because if it's sunny and beautiful, it's going to rain. Something's going to happen. Yeah.
So I kind of want to circle back to the favorite. I'm wondering what takeaway, what are the big lessons that you all feel that we could pull from this as screenwriters? If we're using this as a, if the analysis is going to help us for our future work.
I'll weigh in. I think now I've seen it twice and so impressed with the movie. The tone is so unique and so consistent that you get on a ride. It's like you get on this ride, they punch your ticket, you bring that bar down to keep you from flying out of the car, and it takes off. And it's a great ride, and it's unto itself the whole way. There's a scene where where Emma Stone's character is walking with the guy, and he shoves her down a hill. Remember that scene?
Oh, yeah. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's just and yet when it happens, you go, oh yeah, shit like that's gonna happen because it's so in keeping with the piece. So that's what, and I feel like the script was a very unique take on the people and the predicament of this world. And if I were reading this, I didn't read the script, but that would jump out. Authenticity and unique voice are the two things that I really am blown away by with this film.
Yeah.
For me, what I kept kind of going back to is, and I do think it's, slightly more advanced, but the idea that we open on the queen, it doesn't seem like at first Emma Stone is the protagonist. You would think or assume that the queen is, and sort of just seeing that sneakiness to it, it's not as obvious unless you really understand screenplays that Emma Stone is the protagonist, and seeing how the queen and Sarah story builds purely so it can then pay off for Emma Stone's storyline is so interesting to me. A lot of the times you think of a screenplay like The Graduate, right? Where it's you start on the protagonist, every scene has the protagonist, how they're growing, and just so the use of subplots here is just done so well.
No, yeah, for sure. I agree with that. We spend a lot of time away from Emma Stone, and I think all the characters had arcs of some kind. Rachel Weisz's character she ended up being able to admit that she loved. Presumably, I guess we never really got to see the letter, but she admitted to herself at least how much she loved Anne, even though it didn't pay off. So she had a little arc. And then it seems like Anne, in the very end, realized that basically that she can't trust, people are going to manipulate her. That she realized that these people don't really love her. And so they all had their own growth. And then I think if Adam were here, he would say, find the fun. Because, a lot of these period pieces get really because it was a dismal time, it was not it was not good, it was not nice. And there was a lot of things that were wrong. And when you know what your story is, leaning into that story and the fun of it is, especially if that's your tone, is sometimes the way to go. Like, we didn't get too bogged down with like how abysmal the conditions were in the beginning. Like, it was all focused on the story and the tone. And like, there's definitely like a time and place for a film that digs more into like how cruel life was. But this one only did it through the lens of like fun. And I think that accepting that sometimes you don't have to get, like, being aware of the context is important, but then being able to choose what ends up in your story and finding the fun in it, I think, is one takeaway. If Adam were here.
Yeah, I mean, Alexie, it's a great point. It's you know, they talk about the war, but can you imagine if they'd ever taken us to a shot of the war?
Right.
It would have been a jolt, because they talk about men in the trenches and dying in the mud, but one shot of men in trenches dying in the mud, you got a problem. You've jolted out of. And the other thing is, you know, I don't know, I'm sure they spent a lot of money on the movie, but basically one location they locked in there and away you go.
You know, it reminds me, John, of applying your note of no cancer beats to this. It's like when you start bringing in these other things that are like big deal things, it takes over what your movie's about. You can't ignore it. You can't show a man dying in a trench and then just be like, oh, well, you know, like it becomes an important piece. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like showing that becomes a different movie.
Yeah, we should do a list of those things, although it's a horrendous list, but, you know, cancer, rape, these are things, if you bring them into the movie, they play so big that you can't, then the movie has to be about them, because you can't just, they're not throwaways. And Alexie's referring to, I had a class where they kept, the protagonist is, it's boy wants girl, boy wants girl, boy wants girl, and his mother has cancer. Like, wait, what the fuck is that? And I go, why is that? Well, you know, he's going through a really hard time. Like, and I had this, Alexie's heard me say that, you probably all heard me, but I had one class every week they go, and he wants to win the baseball game. He wants to, and his father's dying of cancer. I'm like, wait, what does that have to do with the base? You know, so they were just trying to give weight to it, and it just jolted you out of the movie. Anyway, so yes, with this, if we cut to a war zone shot, if we cut to men dying in trenches, we're out of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Right, because I think people confuse the idea of having to give a story stakes, and it's like, you know, with someone wanting to be a baseball player and then their dad having cancer, like them just wanting to be the baseball player, to them that's a lot of stakes. Like their dad doesn't need to be dying of cancer for that storyline to have stakes.
Yeah, and if you want dad to be dying of cancer, then it needs to be very thematically relevant to why he's playing baseball. Like, it can't be like, oh, and this, by the way. It has to be like woven into the causation or the motivation of what he's doing. It can't just be like on the fringes. In a movie, you don't have enough time to just put trauma on the fringes. Like, you just, and it's also just, I feel like not a good thing to just kind of adorn your script with trauma to give the impression that it's deep. You know, it's, you know.
Yeah, it rings false. I mean, one of the stories I like a lot, and again, I'm sorry I refer all the time, but the class is so much fun. I've got so many really good writers in my class, and a young lady came up with this, and her protagonist is 12 years old, and she loves a 12-year-old boy. And so when she pitched it, she said, Mr. Warren, I'm really afraid there's no stakes because she's only 12. I said, no, the beauty of that is she doesn't know she's only 12. So if you're 12 years old and you want boy, from your point of view, that's life or death. For a 12-year-old, that's all there is in the world. There is nothing else. They're consumed by it. So you write that movie, by the way, you write that movie from a 12-year-old POV because it's everything. And that's and by the way, that's universal. Because I think I can say safely say everybody, although somebody said she was 15. But anyway, we've all been 12 years old and wanted something that we've long since forgotten. But at 12, it was everything. Yeah. So as long as the protagonist is passionate about the objective, and the favorite certainly plays that. She is passionate about what she wants. She's willing to do anything to get it. And that's why we're willing to follow her.
To give Adam another shout out for not being here, I think that this relates to something he talks about sometimes, about like having radical empathy for your protagonist. And part of that is like really, really thinking from their point of view. And especially when it comes to things like ages, it's just a psychological phenomenon that you remember how you remember old memories of yourself, but you insert yourself as the age you are now. So you're like, why would I do that? Like, that was so stupid. It's like, well, because you were like 8 and an idiot. Like, you know, it's like, because you tend to insert yourself into the memories as who you are now. And it takes like thinking about it very consciously and like remembering what being 12 means in order to fully explore that. And so it just Adam's concept of like, whoever your protagonist is, you need to have radical empathy for them and like really understand where they're coming from.
Yeah,
I also love how it really. Sorry, I just love how it creates its own world, and like you have to know what the world you're creating is, but it doesn't have to be the regular world. How like men are the ones wearing the makeup and wearing the wigs, and she's had all these horrible things happen to her. We don't see it, but we hear about it. But it's like, it's not that dark of a thing. And so like the tone and the world they're creating are so specific and they stick to it really well. And I sort of love that. It's a nice reminder of like, your script doesn't have to be based in this reality.
Yeah. Yeah, like she did have like a really harrowing backstory. And there's a version, like there's a draft of the script where they like dig into how traumatized she is by it, but they don't handle it that way because that's not the tone of the movie. And they certainly don't show it, because then that would be, again, it would be showing the people in the trenches. Like it would change the focus of the film. So yeah, I think that's my takeaway, is just like remembering that it's not just including everything that you know about this world and about this character and putting it on the page. It's about choosing what fits the story you want to tell and the tone that you're telling it in. And yeah. Also, apparently, everyone here is right. I can't bring up Adam anymore. Adam's no longer a person I'm going to bring up. He'd be so flattered, and that's the issue. So I got to stop now.
Maybe we should slam him a little bit, say bad things about him. I think maybe to balance this out.
Both times I've been here, he hasn't been here. I feel like he
maybe
he
it's you, Hannah.
With me. I think it's me. Every time I'm here, he doesn't show.
By the way, can I just say clearly it is you, because there are no accidents. So I mean, let's just call it what it is. He has an issue with you.
I know he's gonna.
I'd like we need to go deeper into that.
Yeah.
By the way, there was a new book coming out. I'm sorry, Alexie, you're probably going to stay on point, and here I go jumping off to it. But there's a new book that was just reviewed yesterday, and I'm willing to bet only 5 of you have seen this movie, but it's a great movie. It's John Schlesinger's great Midnight Cowboy, and there's a new book coming out on it, and it goes back to what Alexie was saying early about casting, and Redford wanted to play John Voight's part, and Warren Beatty wanted to play, and the choices, but it's John Voight and Dustin Hoffman. And if you've never seen Midnight Cowboy, It's a great film. It's a great film.
Ken's finding it on Flick right now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let's look it up.
There we go.
It's a classic for sure. There's so many classics that I need to rewatch.
Here's a question. That the I'm Walking Here movie?
Oh, Michelle. Michelle, that is very good. So in the review of the book, it says, speaking of that, you tied everything in. This is great. So in the review of the book, it says that there's a great moment when Dustin Hoffman says, "I'm walking here." He's crossing the street in New York. He got a limp, so forth and so on. He says, "I'm walking here," and that wasn't in the script. It is the line that everybody remembers from Midnight Cowboy, and it wasn't in the script. It was out of. There you go.
Love that.
John Boy, yeah. What's this? What's Taxi Driver? I don't understand. What's that mean?
I'm Walking Here. Maybe it's set in more than one film.
No. I'm Walking Here is Dustin Hoffman, Ratso Rizzo in Midnight Cowboy. His Girl Friday, which would not be confused with Midnight Cowboy or Taxi Driver. His Girl Friday is a great film.
I haven't seen any of these. Surprise. I was like debating if I was gonna pretend to be one of the 5 people in the room who had seen it just to shock you and just to see your face, but I decided not to. Here we go.
You talking to me as Taxi Driver. By the way, it is the iconic line, much like I'm Walking Here. Yes, the cab almost hits him. Yes, you're right. You're all right. Yes.
These iconic lines.
Oh, right. We need to do a classic. I don't know. Alexie, people don't really like my classics, do they?
We're trying to do more modern films, but we say that, and then Adam freaking shows What's Up, Doc for next week.
What's Up, Doc is so good. Bogdanovich.
So
Peter,
we're hypocrites when we say.
Yeah, Peter Bogdanovich. There, you could do a whole. In fact, they've done books on. I've never read one, but he's one of those directors, great director who makes great films. Last Picture Show, the Paper Moon, brilliant film, and then makes absolutely horrendous films. It's really a bizarre cat, really a strange guy. What do we get?
Speaking of that, if anybody has any recommendations for modern films that you want us to break, stuff that's coming out now, as long as the good news is that so much stuff is accessible online that people don't have to go to a theater to see some new stuff. So if there's anything new that you want us to take a look at, please let us know.
Yeah, The Sound of Metal would be good. Yeah, that's great.
Isn't that the other drawing movie?
Really long. I love Shawshank, but it's really long. I don't know Paris When It Sizzles. What is that? What is Paris When It Sizzles? City of God's brilliant. It's just brilliant. Michelle, I'm sorry. I did not get No Man Land. I guess I'm the only person, right?
What is that about?
It's about Frances McDermott driving around. That was meant to be mean. What?
I said it reminds me of Reese Witherspoon Takes a Walk. We should have a bunch of John log lines for films.
Right, I love that. You should.
John, what's your log line for this one? For this one.
This is Mean Girls all grown up in costume.
There you go. That's true.
Hey Hannah, you must love Mean Girls.
I like it. I wouldn't say I like it. Yeah. But I like this because it's a little less on the nose. But yeah, I like all things about female relationships and how brutal they are.
Yeah,
they are true.
So weird.
They are.
I mean that as a compliment.
Women on women are brutal. Well, John, there's been there aren't as many movies about women in general. So I love movies that also I love that the women in this movie aren't good people. I love seeing evil women, which I feel like we don't get enough of. So
they're not
I
like
just love that.
catty. They're not like catty at each other, which I like. They're just like completely sabotaging each other. Like it's not like Mean Girls, like where she's gonna make her fat. She poisoned her tea so she would like fall off a horse and maybe die. You know, it's like it's a different level of like I don't know, conflict. But yeah, female friendships are fun and they're neat. Like books.
I also just love how vain the queen is and like over the top she is. Like I just love.
And how mean Rachel is. She's just so mean.
What is the William? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
What is the William Goldman Audrey? Is that what is that? Is that
where?
Paris When It Sizzles? Is that William Goldman? I didn't know that was William. I don't think that's William Goldman. Is it? Maybe it is.
Dilla
Breaking
says, when you're done.
RoboCop. That's very funny. That's very funny. Rachel Weisz is amazing. I like women. I like all this. I have, as you guys know, I'm surrounded by women. I've got 2 daughters, and when they talk about the minutia of relationships with friends and girlfriends, I'm just completely astonished because it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
Ooh, sorry.
Female friendships are a great topic for films because it's like nearly romantic in a lot of ways, but also like can be so ruthless. And I just think it has like emotional intensity in a way.
It's like the love interest and the antagonist all in one relationship.
Yes,
it's like
that
all
is exactly it.
Yeah.
It's
Abdullah has 4 daughters. Jesus, he's busy. Wait, somebody.
Wow. You get it then,
Falcon.
Abdullah.
Oh, Maltese Falcon. William Holdman. Yeah. Theo, yeah, William Holdman, not William Goldman. William Holdman is the writer. Maltese Falcon, I love. Yeah. So anyway, we'll do some classics. But I think the favorite was fun. Thank you, Hannah or Alexie, whoever suggested it. Hannah, thank you. It was great.
Nice.
And you're going to come back, Hannah, see us more?
I'm definitely going to come back. I can't get enough of you guys.
Okay. We're enchanted.
You'll have to help us pick another good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to think. Everyone go download Flick Movies in the Apple App Store.
Yeah, download that shiz. It's really great.
We now have trailers, so I think that makes it a lot better.
And do they before we go, Hannah, do they find it?
You search Flick Movies in the Apple App Store.
Flick.
We're not on Android yet.
With a K.
F-L-I-K. Yeah.
F-L-I-K and the movie App Store. Okay, everybody do that. Hannah, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, you guys. This was so fun.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good weekend,
Thanks,
everybody.
Antonella. Bye, everyone.